Good afternoon. We are at Innaprom, and today we are going to talk about digital innovations and their implementation in industry. My name is Andrei Sholokhov. I'm Deputy General Director for National Projects Softline, and I'm happy to introduce our speakers. This is Roman Yakovlev, Director for Digitalization of Business Processes of Megafon, Detlef Reicheneder, Senior Director Business Strategy Design and Manufacturing of Autodesk, Alexey Belikov, Vice President, Executive Director of Advanced Manufacturing Technology Cluster in Skolkovo Foundation, Ekaterina Solntseva, Director for Digitalization of Rosatom Corporation, Mikhail Korolьков, the Head of Digital Technology Center of Gazpromneft, and Sergei Vikharev, the Director of Technological Practice, KPMG in Russia and Commonwealth of Independent States. And I would like to start with the fact that back in 1976 there was Richard Dawkins' book, where in chapter 11 Richard introduced the theme of meme as information gene. You know that memes live in networks like families, states, churches, and memes are like viruses. This is the contemporary subject. Digital innovations are basically viruses. This meme infects more and more companies, and we can say that recently there has been a change. It was back in 2010. If up until 2000 every company had some advantages from digitalization, right now we often hear that you will die unless you undergo digitalization. Maybe we already have some immunity to digital virus. Maybe we're just trying to frighten ourselves into some action. Dear colleagues, I understand that your jobs appeared in digital era. You've been working in digital era, but I would like you to come back to some basic principles. What makes your clients successful as opposed to clients of your competitors? So what's the advantage of your solutions? And the first question I would like to ask to Roman Yakovlev, Director for Digitalization of Megafon. I read a bad book recently, but there was a very interesting point over there that telegraph and telecom, these companies decrease opportunities for the so-called area arbitrage. This is the case when you don't have the necessary information. You can buy it cheap here and sell it expensively somewhere else, and the companies built their business like that, buying and selling. Is it enough right now? What do you do now? Which results do you bring to your clients? Thank you, Andrei, for your question. Basically, I think it would be improper to position Megafon now as only operator of communication, only as a seller of databases and SIM cards. No, it goes against the very constitution of Megafon. I will give you more details about that. You may know that assets of USM and X Holding were united this April, and due to that, Megafon received unprecedented volume of expertise and resources, but that was not a merger of two independent companies. From 2017, Megafon and X company were aiming at developing their digital agenda, and that is why within this short period of time we've managed to implement like hundreds of solutions for industries. And I would like to tell you more about these solutions for industry I personally oversaw. Yes, of course, Roman. You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Наверное, среди факторов, почему в целом,
I think that among the many factors we can think of drivers for industry, I would personally choose three. That's lagging behind in technology and in means of professional communication, then the lack of instruments for control of safety and security, and of course the changes in legislation and the activity of law enforcement agencies. And when we talk about implementation of digital innovations, we should start from the point that when we have all the legal issues covered with the documentation, which is working already, it works 100%. And it means that if we would like to increase their efficiency, we should think out of the box. We should think comprehensively, otherwise we will break the existing chains. So before starting digitalization, we have to think what can we put those digital tools on top of, what should we comply with. We should think of the platforms of our vendors. One of the enterprises, for example, which was dealing with metallurgy, they started working with the point in their process where the changes will make their production the least efficient, and they didn't have any transparency about their storage. They did not have a sequence of participants in the technological line. There were only fragments, and the process of storage was very utilitarian, but at every production cell it had its own peculiarities. And first they implemented ERP system to automatize their assessment and inspection, and they managed to control the major indices. They built up the comprehensive approach to project to overseeing the manufacturing, and that allowed them to work out a comprehensive line of overseeing the whole process, and they worked out electronic signature as well, which allowed them to cut costs and exclude all the paperwork completely. Roman, can I summarize what you have said? Please say yes or no whether I understand you correctly. So Megafon, as telecommunication company, continues doing what they have been doing. It decreases the chances for this area arbitrage, but within the manufacturing company, and it is done not only because you provide connections, but you provide systemic integration. It's not enough to give traffic, it's not enough to give speed, to give them 2G or 3G. It's necessary also to correlate the processes in such a way that this information went through necessary lines. Am I right to understand you like that? I would like to know what book you have read, because it's very difficult for me to understand the context. But anyway, you are quite right. As Megafon undertakes the role of not only an operator who passes the information from one point to another, but we become a company which integrates a lot of solutions with lots of frequencies, a lot of services on different platforms. Yes, I think within this context, yes, I think, yes, we take these functions as our own, and we enter the market with them. Am I right to understand your question like that? Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, and I know that Megaphone follows the international practice like Lisa, and it's great that you are becoming a leader in this area, and you demonstrate better and better results in our industrial sector. And right now I would like to go over to a more international experience, and I would like to ask questions to Detlef Reicheneder, Senior Director Business Strategy, Design and Manufacturer, Autodesk.
We know
Detlef.
that Autodesk is a very innovative company. A long time ago, Autodesk introduced a high-level language for the computer-aided design and actually won the race. Just recently, Autodesk has moved from to subscription model, and even though it increased, your market price to the heights, the margin during the transition was low. We know the news that BMW, for example, is starting to sell some of the functions in their cars by subscription, like heating up the seats. So would you recommend your clients to go for subscription? And actually, what Autodesk has to propose to the clients for them to be successful in the modern world?
So a lot of our customers are looking into new ways of driving more business and business growth in a time of unprecedented change. And they all rethink how to do their business. They want to add a constant inflow of business by adding a lifetime value to their existing products, which are traditionally hardware products. They offer products plus a service. They try to offer products as a service. And during that transition, they obviously need to transform their own business to be prepared and be ready. And this is a traditional digital transformation they undergo. And we offer customers actually 3 ways and 3 steps to go there. First, automation, automate processes, get more efficient, automate engineering. Second is collaboration, collaborate better internally as well as with supply chains and with your end customers, and then generate data insights out of data, because only with insights from data from operation of products, customer can really offer services on top of products or turn traditional hardware into service offerings.
So Detlef, thank you for this. And I know we had a main session previously today where the 2 top guys from Dassault and Siemens Industry Software presented. And there was a good question, basically, that all the computer-aided design and product lifecycle management software is generally doing is automating the design work, the design and manufacturing work, and reusing a lot of components to make manufacturers possible to produce a lot of different series of products very fast and with different prices, and that's all. And speaking about pandemic, would you see a difference in manufacturing and also in CAD and PLM software when the manufacturers would change their principles? Maybe they would not produce 6 products in 1 year, but doing 2 products in 2 years due to economic reasons. So would it change the strategy for Autodesk? Do you see this change on the market?
Yes, we see a change in the market, and the change is that companies need to be much more agile and flexible. Nobody can predict exactly what you said. Will it be 6 products in 1 year or 2 products? What would be the volume of the product? Where's the demand? Is it in China? Do I need to move production over to other countries? So companies and our customers need to be prepared for those flexibilities. And one of the things we did is lowering the barrier. And you said it correctly. So during that transition to a subscription, we obviously were challenged with our income, obviously, because we lowered the barrier. And that means low entry for our customers, and we start during that transition period less income for us. But now we are over this, and we can now offer our customers that lower the barrier entrance, much more flexibility. We see that customers leverage this. If they have a demand, they can add more subscriptions, they can add more engineers, more resources. If the peak is gone, they can lower and reduce it easily. They don't get stuck with perpetual software, as an example. And at the same time, we try to establish a way that we deliver in each step of a project an ROI, make sure that it doesn't take 3 years to get something out. After 6 months, customers need to get a return because the world is changing so fast that you need to adjust on the way.
Detlef, I can't help, asking you a question about Russia. We know that Autodesk is not a leading, vendor in manufacturing space. In building, yes, it is an absolute leader. So do you have a strategy for the Russian Federation as a territory and as a market to gain the leadership back for Autodesk in manufacturing?
So I personally have a favor for Russia. I've been there several times, and yes, and I believe the current situation and even before the current situation with Corona crisis showed that markets are changing quite fast, and we need to invest in several markets in the future in order to not just leverage the situation but help our customers. We got great customers over the last 2 or 3 years in Russia and the Russian Federation, and we see a demand for solutions which bridge the gap between engineering and manufacturing, and then help those customers to be present globally. So we have great train manufacturers in Russia as our customers who really want to enter international markets. And the answer is yes. So we want to be much more present in Russia. And obviously, we are a customer-driven company, help our customers, because only if our customers are successful, we are successful.
Thank you very much, Detlef, and it was very interesting. And I will return to you at the end of the session with a special question. А сейчас я хотел бы задать вопрос Алексею Белякову. Алексей, мы знаем жизненный цикл инновационного технологического стартапа на Западе, где цель стартапа — это выйти на IPO или продаться большой корпорации, такой как Google или Amazon, и основатели стартапов имеют все шансы стать миллионерами, и это так история успеха, которая там тиражируется очень часто. Но мы, к сожалению, этого не видим в России. Да, в чем отличие от Запада? Что вы делаете на рынке? Я знаю, что у вас есть акселерационная программа для технологических стартапов, и вы работаете с большими корпорациями, в том числе российскими. Как происходит? Есть ли шанс у основателя российского технологического стартапа стать миллионером?
Thank you very much, Andrei. But your question is so broad that I will not be able to answer it briefly. But I will try to be as brief as possible and to answer the several questions you have asked. Starting with the last one, there is a chance, and this chance is implemented. It is implemented. It happens regularly. You see that among Skolkovo residents and there are investors from Rosatom or Rostelecom, and the number of the so-called exits in leave-alone investment deals is quite high, and this includes the ecosystems within Skolkovo and around Skolkovo. We've seen quite many rich people who have sold their businesses to strategic investors. And speaking of what Skolkovo does for startups, there is a nuance, because as I understand, our session focuses on industrial technology and on startups that work in production. The situation is a bit more complicated here. It's one story when you set up a startup company in retail or cybersecurity or AI, while if you have a large large-scale client as a large-scale corporation as a client, like a state-supported corporation or a big international manufacturing company, the cycle is much more complex, and the barriers for entering this market are much higher. There are chances, but still there are chances, and even, it's in order to make these chances come true that we have started several corporate accelerators, and we implement several dozens of them in a year, and some of them are in collaboration with Rosatom, which is present here at this session. We use different tools, including financial ones, in order to encourage to increase the demand for the products by our startups within the industry. And Skolkovo is an operator of the digital economy program, and we also finance pilot implementation, and we monitor implementation of various digital technologies. And therefore, answering briefly, yes, there are success stories out there, and there are talented people behind these stories. But the role of Skolkovo and what Skolkovo is doing successfully is helping companies get in contact with their customers, both in Russia and and internationally, because we know that the money
Алексей,
is mostly
очень
out there
интересно. Ну,
abroad.
значит, у нас
It's
есть
very interesting
много
to hear that. I
богатых,
would say we
талантливых
understand
основателей.
that we have many
Это
rich,
хорошо. А что
successful,
получают
and talented founders. But what do large-scale state corporations? What are the benefits for them from buying the capital in Skolkovo, the companies in Skolkovo? As the international experience shows, the demand for new solutions, forward solutions that have not been developed within corporations is growing. If we look at the number of deals to acquire startups from Siemens or GE or Autodesk, we will see that both the number grows and the amount of money spent on these deals grows. And there are several goals that the corporations pursue in buying startups. The first one being buying a competitor and strengthening the product range through with the product that does not exist yet. Secondly, entering a new market. There's always a fork, like how you can enter a new market. You can either spend a lot of money and a lot of time and bear a lot of and be exposed to a lot of risks by developing yourself, or you can buy a ready-made product. You will save time, even though you will spend money. And entering corporate markets is the second goal, and the third goal is increasing the internal efficiency. If a corporation is a core customer for a technology, it makes sense to buy the team and the technology. Therefore, there are also always financial and business goals behind buying startups. It's an interesting question because the market of buyers can be different. If we look at the markets in London and in Russia, we will see this difference. On July 1st, we see an experiment on a pilot project on IAI in Moscow. This is the so-called regulatory sandbox. We saw such sandboxes in London on financial and technology, but it's not about new technologies adapted by the law, but also the fact that in this case we see that the state, in the face of the central bank, gave an opportunity to finance these startups because they left the gray zone, and therefore they could attract more investments. In this country, we do not have an open market. You can argue with me, but I would say that. And that's why Skolkovo and other development tools are rather representatives of these large-scale corporations. Is it so? Well, Andrei, if you think so, and you as someone from Softline company, you know our system firsthand. If Softline thinks so, this means that we are not doing our job well enough. This shouldn't be so. And Skolkovo's idea from the very start was to play on the side of startups. This is what we believe in, and this is what we do from morning till evening. And in addition to financial and regulatory support is a very important matter. You mentioned London, and I immediately, what occurred to me is the example of a Revolut company. This is a Russian company. This is a company that just exploded the financial technology market. Speaking about industry, it's not as simple as in financial technology. Speaking about financial, Russia is one of the best developed countries, is one of the superior countries here, looking at banks. While speaking about industry, we can see a very conservative market, and companies and regulating companies do not always embrace change. There is a lot of hype around digital twins and digital tests, but still, if we talk about producing planes or helicopters, why not replace the real life tests with digital tests or with climate models? We try to do that, but that's a long-term process that involve many design institutes, research institutes, consumers and regulatory agencies. I can't say that we're very efficient and fast in this respect, but what I can say for sure is that one of the goals of the Skolkovo Fund is to play in this field and to push for regulatory changes. Alexei, and you know that Softline is fully supports you, and we open and set up labs in Skolkovo and so on. But when I was talking with Alexei, I remembered a very old film about all dogs going to heaven, and all Russian high-tech startups go into state corporations. And this is a good reason to ask a question to Ekaterina Solntseva from Rosatom. Ekaterina, you work in two areas in Rosatom, one being digital transformation of Rosatom as such, and the second being what you voice very often is the sale to independent commercial customers. And what I want to know about is the second area. Who do you work with? Who do you compete with? Rostec or Autodesk and Amazon? How do you help your clients, your external clients, be successful? Thank you for your question, Andrei. I will then start by telling what I do not agree with regarding the question itself. It's not two areas that we work in. It's much more complex, and that's an important point for discussion. I will come back to your question, but the thing is that if we remember the start, what we started with, digitalize or die, there is no options other option but digitalize. This is the world we live in. It's like not breathing. It's like not using the computers. This is a process that is happening. This is what we have to put up with and live with. What's important is that the process is country-specific, is national, rather than limited to one specific companies, even Rosatom. We actually have 6 areas. The third being encouraging and promotion of digitalization of the Russian Federation, because we understand very well that even we ourselves, we will never be able to sell our products or digitalize our own process if we do not build an ecosystem together with all the players that will include the regulations, the necessary regulations. A lot is being spoken about import substitution, but we know that the companies that try to substitute the important components, suddenly learn that there are no regulations where you can that allow you to use Russian software instead of Western software, and without being asked about the reasons for changing this software, the reason for spending this money. Therefore, I will once again stress that we work in a whole range of areas, and we feel that it's important that all players become part of a large-scale ecosystem, and that's why Alexei has already mentioned our joint work with Skolkovo and the support measures that are provided, that are taken in digitalization. But what's important is that the drivers that exist, that include, but are not limited to digitalization. That's about the education and others as well. We have to have a practical result, and we have to shift from intellectual approach to digitalization to the market-based approach. Let's look at the past 7 years. For the past 7 years, the team of Russia is one of the leaders in global championships in programming. We have been champions for 7 times. But do we have any products that have a decent place in the global market? Maybe 2 or 1.5, or maybe maybe 10. Because I once said 2, but 10 is and the listeners started arguing. But 10 is still too little, too few. It does not allow us to claim that we are a digitalized country, that we want to be. And we need to work together in different areas. I mean, in a whole range of areas. And certainly, we are very interested in attracting and involving startup companies. We have a program where we monitor successful startups, and we look at opportunities to become part of the equity and part of the strategic partnership, because, as has been mentioned already, it's much faster than building everything from scratch, even for such a large-scale company as us. What I also want to ask about is 2 years ago there was a session of Inaprom, and there was your colleague there, Ildar Shevaliev from Kamaz, and we were discussing support of various digital solutions. And he said that import substitution is good, but please give us the opportunity to achieve a result instead of implementing something with errors and other bugs. Is there a fear that this import substitution will become the reason for spatial arbitrage, where there will be reselling of imported goods under the Russian brands? And this is the same question. Okay, let's see. Everything that's not open source, we think about it as proprietary software. If it's not Russian, and then if it's not Russian, then the software cannot be considered Russian, and everything up to operating systems and databases, everything that's written in something that is not Russian is import dependent. So that's a question of terminology. And answering your question, we're not afraid of that in Rosatom. We will not allow that within our corporation, and we will not do that. And we will take every effort to avoid that on the national scale. I don't see any attempts to try and achieve that. If it was a problem, we would not be in a good situation. In fact, that is very good to hear that that you have this very clear opinion that the development, and I hope that this position will help the development of Russian solutions and Russia-based solutions. In fact, I would like to ask a question to Mikhail Korolkov, who is the head of this digital research.
Mikhail, last year I actively participated with my colleagues from Technology Park in this story of shaping up the federal project on artificial intelligence, where Gazpromneft participated and still participates. So your colleagues, unlike other companies entering this alliance like Yandex, Mail.ru, Sberbank, your colleagues, unlike others, spoke that digital solutions are very good, but Gazpromneft will make their digital solutions only for themselves and is not going to sell them on the market. And there were some specific arguments and reasons. That was because of the size of the market, and it's difficult to get money off your investments and so on and so forth. So what's your position now? Does Gazpromneft focus on its core business, transforming it with digital products? Or do you do anything else? And I know that you've been working some digital solutions, you've been trying to implement them. Can you give us any results? Can you describe us the results of your R&D in the field of digitalization? Well, first of all, I would like to remind you that our industry is very technologically complex. It's mining, it's drilling, extracting, logistics. All of them are very, very complicated spheres, technologically speaking. And we understand that in the long-term situation right now, the companies win if they implement their solutions earlier rather than others. If they create such solutions, implement those solutions earlier than others. That's innovations, that's innovative development. Having said that, I would like to say that we are oil producing company and we are for-profit company, so first and foremost we are aimed at getting profit from our main business, and we understand that no digital solution which we're going to put on the market can compare in short term with the money we receive from our core business. So digitalization for us is a means of supporting our major business, our core business, ensuring its safety, security, ensuring its profitability and efficiency, and all these words about competitiveness through innovation, through digital innovations. It's not mere words. Actually, they are written down in our strategies. For example, our program of digitalization is aimed at increasing the efficiency of our company by 3 to 5% within several years. We have very specific tasks of increasing the output of our mining operations, and it's very interesting when we cut down on our business cycles, because digitalization allows us to make our business cycles shorter. So, for example, geological surveys, there is this task of making the geological survey shorter by like 30%. That's quite a huge amount of time, because geological survey of one piece of land can take years and years, and it entails huge effects, because as soon as we receive profits from some deposit, as they say, time to market, how much time it takes to get on the market, and we have time to oil term. It means that we've spent so much money and so much time before we get the first oil. And when we discuss infrastructure and building, every single oil deposit exploration starts with very large-scale building and construction, and right now we have the task to cut down costs and times by 40%. So that's about 4 or 5 years, and it's huge amounts of money. We will be cutting costs, will be decreasing time to oil, decreasing the time to receiving the first income, the first profit from our investments. But on the other hand, I would like to say that we are not only internally oriented. Of course, our first priority is our own business, but we would like to make our products commercially efficient. The point is that we would like to use the most efficient products. And if we use some product and nobody else uses it, it's difficult to say that it's the most efficient. So to understand that our product is the most efficient, we will have to have somebody willing to buy it. And that is why we are interested in making our products commercially competitive. So we are not specifically aimed at selling our products, but nevertheless we started working with some customers whose priority is to sell commercial products. Yes, there are representatives of that customer here at this session, and we've built our process as you've been describing it. We've built the whole process, starting from scouting for new ideas, then experimenting with those ideas to be able to understand what works, what doesn't. Then successful ideas are transferred very fast to implementation, application, directly from the experimenting stage. And what we assess on our own products, then we can sell it as a commercial product. So we have this like conveyor belt already. On the stage of scouting, we consider hundreds of ideas which pop up in our company, and we also borrow it on the market, but always filter them out through our own perspective. Last year we had 200 experiments. Then as for implementing, we have about tens of products, and we have already examples when something was very successfully implemented within our company, and we can measure the results, and we can see that the digital innovations are working. There are examples of our projects, like for example the Center of Management of Drilling, which for example, manages very complicated drilling procedures, and the management is in St. Petersburg, and the drilling itself is like several thousand kilometers, but in real time, online, we get together the best expertise to support the company at the drilling rig. And we have already assessed results, we have already estimated the efficiency, and yes, it does make sense to use digital innovations. Mikhail, thank you very much, because what you told us basically coincides with what Detlef was saying when we discussed machine building and time to market, and now you are saying that you have this time to oil term. That's resolving the tasks of designing in such a way that we should have a maximum output on our investment. Yes, research and design and implementation. Of course, we should cut down on time. Yes, that's exactly what we call PLM in machine building, and it's great that Gazprom works in the same direction, and I do hope that someday you will make your products accessible to all clients in the market, and I hope that your products will be the best. Thank you very much. And now I have a question to Sergei Vikharev, the Director of Technological Practice, KPMG, in Russia and Commonwealth of Independent States. As consultants, we know that we are the major means of infection with digital virus, with digital innovations. We transfer them all over the markets, and that is why I would like to ask you a question. What do you do, like PMG in Russia? How do you earn your money? What solutions do you offer to your industrial clients? When you're saying the virus of digital transformation, it's clear that the word itself entails different reactions. There is no digital transformation as a common case. No, there are different projects within this transformation culture. And all these transformation processes, which go on for years and years, these enterprises add up like 2–3% of more efficiency using digital products, for example, using it for analytics, and they create some reports for the managers, and they make the technological process, no matter how complicated it is, they make it possible to manage it more efficiently and to make it possible for an observer to adjust some technological processes and maybe react to some alarms, to some warnings, to some challenges. And from the viewpoint of competitiveness on the market, it gives the management the opportunity to work not with just technological data, but some results which can be recalculated and compared with the costs, or if it is some predictive model, they can give you a prediction not in days or details, which is important technologically speaking, but it can give you predictions in rubles, how much you are going to spend, how much you are going to get. So these systems can resolve such issues, and they are of interest, of course. But of course they are very narrow solutions, very specific solutions, and we help in technological scouting. We prepare tailor-made solutions for some new fields. We find the most promising technological teams, and we offer digitalization as diversification of major business. We help them support their leading role on the market and increasing their efficiency. Sergei, when we discussed it with you yesterday, we mentioned different strategies a company can use. Some of them use very aggressive strategies and some of them very defensive strategies. So which strategies does Russian industry implement? Well, all objects can be subdivided into two categories, and we can subdivide this into offensive, aggressive tactics of attracting new clients, and keeping the best experience. And it's very typical of the Russian companies, but not the industrial sector, not for manufacturers, because they don't have millions of clients, which is typical of retail or banks or telecommunications. They have about 10 key partners and maybe 1,000 clients overall. But the second direction, the defensive strategies, are very interesting for them, are of great interest to them, because they can allow you to cut costs on specific directions of your business, on specific stages of your technological line. And if your company is stable with the profit of about 5%, and if you overcome this gap and cut down costs within very specific lines of work, you can get 1% more, cut down your costs 1%, it will be like 10-20% in your profit, and that will be a very good KPI for any manager. Sergey, we've got about 10 minutes left, and I would like to go over to rapid questions session. So you will have about 30 seconds or 1 minute to answer this question, and you will be the first, and it will be the hardest for you. But I think you're the most prepared speaker over here, so everybody knows that we live with memes.
We all know that our social system has lived with memes for a long time. Some of them date back into history. We live in a culture of a Christian country, and we have lived with memes of Christian religion for a long time. There is a risk of entering a very dangerous field, but it's hard to change these do not kill and do not steal commandments. Do you think that within 20 years we will still live with memes, with the meme of digital transformation, or is it something temporary or transitory? Well, in 20 years, in 2020 years, there is a in 2020 years, there is a question if we will still be around and who we will be and where we will be implanted and to which extent we will still be actors in this story. And speaking of digital transformation, it's hard to say that, but it's obvious that we will still have to adapt to the environment, no matter what this environment looks like. I did not speaking about digital. Yes, it will still be digital because managing means calculating. We scale every time when we 2 points, 4 points. This is bad. This is good. So, and thank you, Sergey and Mikhail Korolkov. We have all heard about the peak, the oil peak, and there are some ideas, there are opinions that we will run out of oil soon. But in 2020 years from now, will the meme of digital transformation will still be popular? 2020 years or 200 years, that's a question of personal belief. I will try to be more practical. Will digital transformation still be around in 3 or 5 years' time from now? And this is where I would say that we can change words, but what will change for sure is the focus. The focus today is on data and their active use, be it data management or data collection methods and artificial intelligence and machine learning, things that process data. And 5 years later, there will be a trend for physical physical robotization. I think that what we will see in mass scale is not just data processing, but rather the physical implementation of what this data dictates. And 10 years later, there will be autonomous, fully autonomous assets, fully autonomous production facilities. Thank you, Mikhail. Thank you very much, Ekaterina. You can say 100% that in 2020 we will still have nuclear power and the sun will still be there. What will happen with digital transformation? Well, let's try to take a step back, 2020 years ago, and how would the question sound then? Will this mean that you will have to learn to read and write? Will it still be around 2020 years later? And everybody would have said then, yes, you will still have to learn to read and write, but and in the same way, digital technologies will still be around, but the meme will be different. The memes about digital technology will be different. But I agree with colleagues. Do not look into that deep into the future. Let's look 50 years into the future, and there will be combination and integration of information technology and humans and biotech, and that this is where it will be then. And we shouldn't probably guess what will be happening in 2020 years ago. We know that we expect that biotech will be the next wave. I fully agree with you, Katerina, and you said a very good thing. Learning to read and write, this is something that has to do with information revolution. But it's important that this skill is accessible to everyone, and this only happened in the 20th century to some degree. And this is the process, yes. Alexei, what will happen with the innovation market 2020 years later? Will digital or information innovation still be there? I cannot hear the speaker. I'm confident that in 2020 years, startup companies will still be there. Not all startups will be bought by Rosatom and Rostelecom. Something will still be available in the free market. And speaking seriously, you quote classics, and I would quote the Black Mirror series. I think that at this time we will be all living in a fully digital world. All services will be fully digital. The only thing that will still be around will be the human being still existing in this digital universe. The meme about digital innovation will not be there. We will be seeing the digital world as naturally as reading and writing today. That's a great topic that you touched upon with this Black Mirror. I watched a couple of episodes when doing my training, and there is no positive effect in these episodes. There is no hero who would change the world. It is declared that the world is over and nothing good will happen anymore. Is that how you see digital transformation? No, I see it in a different way. I hope that it will lead to a reasonable and happy world. Detlef?
What would you see? Digital transformation would be a meme in 2020 years or not?
It might be a different term, but be different words, but it will be still around. Like we still have machines, we still have computers, even if they are 50 or 60, 70 years old. But the world will change. I predict that we'll see a lot of traditional work being automated with the computation power of the cloud, machine learning, artificial intelligence. That will create new jobs and new opportunities. And I believe one of the biggest challenges is that we need to be prepared for those new opportunities.
Thank you, Detlef. И Роман, ну
And
мы с
Roman,
вами начали эту тему,
we started
и
this
давайте мы
with
ее
you,
очень
and
классно закончим.
let's
Что будет с телеком
say the final
через
words with
2020
you.
лет?
What will
Будет
happen
ли
with
это
telecom
гонкой за
2020
на
years from
скорость
now,
или
and
гонкой
will
за системную
that be a
интеграцию, или
competition
это будет
based
что-то
on
абсолютно
speed
другое?
or system integration, or what will be
Слушайте, я думаю,
based on?
что
I
телеком, как тот
think
оператор,
that
который передает
telecom, as
информацию, дает
an
коммуникации
operator that
между людьми,
communicates
между
information and provides
между
opportunities
компаниями,
for
он,
communication
безусловно,
between
останется.
humans
Вопрос, во
and
что он
companies, will
трансформируется,
still be there. The
конечно, очень
question is what
интересный
it will
вопрос, и
transform
стоит об
into.
этом думать
That's
уже
an
сейчас.
interesting question, and we have to think about it now.
Спасибо, Роман. И я
Thank you,
хочу
Roman.
поблагодарить всех наших
And
спикеров.
I would
Это
like
была
to
прекрасная сессия. Я
thank
получил
all of our
большое
speakers.
удовольствие.
This was
Надеюсь,
a
что
wonderful
наши
session.
слушатели
I
тоже
was
и участники.
very happy, and
Большое всем
it was a
спасибо.
great
И я
pleasure for
очень
me
верю в
to
цифровые
moderate it.
инновации и готов
I really
поддерживать
believe in
любое
digital
начинание.
innovation, and I'm ready to support
Спасибо
any
большое. До
initiatives
свидания. Всем
there. Thank you
хорошего
very
дня.
much, and have a good day.